Next up, I want to cover a very important topic when it comes to Power BI reporting, and that's report interactions. Now, consider a dashboard like this. In the Format tab, you'll see a button on the left called Edit Interactions. When you select a specific visual in your report and click Edit Interactions, you'll see a number of different controls associated with each other visual on that page. And in each case, you'll see a filter icon and a no filter icon. And what these report interactions do is they allow you to determine how filters applied to one visual impact the other visuals. In other words, it determines how you want your visuals to talk to each other. And remember that in most cases, by default, all of the visuals on the page will be configured to react to each other. So as filter context changes with every selection on each visual, the other visuals filter down accordingly. But sometimes you don't want that to be the case. Take this example here. The product matrix shown on the left, the country slicer at the top, and the map itself are all configured to react to filter changes to the timeline, which is the selected object or visual. And you can see that by the activated filter icons in each of those three visuals. Now, on the other hand, our three cards here, the month-to-date profit, quarter-to-date profit, and year-to-date profit, are all configured to not filter in response to changes in the timeline. And this is a common example for cases where you'd like your card to always show a specific time period or the current month. Or maybe you're showing data from two unrelated tables that can't provide valid filters for each other. In any of these cases, the Edit Report Interactions tool is incredibly useful. I want to show you one more example as well. Consider this case. In certain types of visuals, a third option appears, and that option allows you to highlight subsegments of the data rather than simply filtering or not filtering. So in the first case here on the left, when the interaction mode is set to filter, then when we select bikes from the tree map, it produces a filtered list of subcategories in the chart below. So all we see are road bikes, mountain bikes, and touring bikes. In the second example, when the interaction mode is set to highlight, which looks like a pie with a slice pulled out, selecting the bikes category in the tree map doesn't filter down the list of subcategories, it simply highlights the relevant subsegment of data. So both options are perfectly valid, it's just a matter of how you want to display this relationship between your visuals. So let's head back to our report and try configuring some of these interactions ourselves. So back in our AdventureWorks report, let's head back to the Executive Summary tab. And let's say, for example, we want these KPI cards in the top right to always reflect the current month. In other words, we don't want these cards to react to changes in filter context from the date slicer here. That means that what we need to do is edit the report interactions to change the way that these visuals talk to each other. So we'll select the slicer as kind of our parent visual. We can go into the Format tab, and you'll see this Edit Interactions button on the left. And when you click to activate, all of those icons will appear for every visual on the page. All the cards, the maps, the matrix, the tree map, the bar chart. And you can see that by default, they are all configured to filter in response to changes to our date slicer. So all we need to do to tell the cards to ignore filter context from our slicer is disable or switch these filters to none. And once we do that, we can deactivate the interactions. And now check it out. As we move our dates, the other visuals in our report change, but our cards remain constant. Now keep in mind that other filter changes produced by other visuals in the report will continue to change those cards. We've only changed the interaction between the slicer and the cards, not the relationship between other visuals and those cards. So in this case, I'd like to be able to filter down our revenue, our orders, and our returns by different categories produced by filter context from other visuals. So this is okay, but keep in mind that if we were to select the tree map, for instance, and edit the interactions, you get an entirely new set of interaction modes. Now, one to call out here is by default, the subcategory bar chart is set to highlight instead of filter, which is why when we deactivate, as we filter these categories in the tree map, you see that we still continue to see the full set of subcategories. We're just highlighting those which fall into the selected category above. Now, if we were to change that interaction mode to filter, now we're not seeing the full set of subcategories each time. We're seeing a filtered down list based on the selection in another visual. So in this case, I think the highlight mode is actually more effective here because I like to see the full list of subcategories and get a sense of the rank of where the highlighted values from a given category fall. So let's go ahead and deactivate the interactions. And really, it's just interesting to play around and see how things react to each other. So in this case, we have a highlight relationship from the subcategory table up to the tree map as well. You'll note that it's highlighting subsegments of these boxes rather than changing the entire tree map itself. So as you can see, it can get pretty complex. There are a ton of different potential relationships and interactions that you could customize here, especially in our case where we have a large number of visuals on the page. But keep that in your back pocket. It's a great tool to customize how your different visuals react to different filter context.